All right, guys, well, I'm back today with a very unique upper assembly from Bear Creek Arsenal, a high-value bolt-action upper, and the ones we are looking at today are Chamberlain 300 Blackout. I'm going to talk a little bit more, obviously, about the specs and features of the upper assemblies that you see in front of me, as well as the reliability and even some quirks of running a bolt-action AR from Bear Creek. But I'm also going to be talking about why you may want a bolt-action upper assembly over a semi-auto upper assembly. Before we get too far into the overview of both of these uppers, I want to give a huge shout out to Bear Creek Arsenal for sending these out to the channel for test and evaluation. But like always, just because I sent them out, I'm not going to pull any punches. And for more information about these uppers, check the campsite in the description below. That's going to be where all of that information lies, and everything will be neatly organized over there. On top of that, there's information about a ton of other things that you don't want to miss. I also want to give a huge shout out to AAC Ammo for providing the ammo to help make this video. We ran a lot of subsonic AAC 300 Blackout, and it performed amazing in both of these upper assemblies, and it really shines in something like a closed breech gun, really quiet, and that's one of the benefits of a closed breech bolt action, but we'll get to that in the benefits section. Now let's start off by talking about the basic specs and features, starting with the price point. The price point on a lot of these are going to be easily sub 300, but a lot of them are actually sub 200, especially the pistol or SBR varieties. A lot of these are going to be easily under 200, which is just a great value, all things considered. Now, some of the rifle length versions obviously have longer rails, longer barrels, more materials, but you can easily find those under 250. In fact, the one we're looking at here with a spiral fluted Bear Creek Arsenal stainless steel barrel is going to be right around 225. So very good value when it comes to these upper assemblies. Now let's talk about the basic specs and features of the bolt action itself. And one of the first things I want to know is, how does it operate? How does the bolt action mechanism work on an upper assembly like this? I'm going to move the larger one out of the way just so I can be a little bit more nimble on camera, and we'll bring it back in when we're talking about that particular upper assembly. Now, for me, if the bolt action doesn't run well, then there's really no point in grabbing one. And I've run bolt action guns that have fed from AR mags in the past, and some have worked incredibly well, like the Ruger American lineup, and some have performed really bad when it comes to running the gun, like some of the Mossberg MVP series. Now, this one falls in the very reliable feeding category, but it's got some quirks with the bolt action. Now, I've seen some other reviewers online simply lift up their bolt and pull it back like that, and it cycles just fine. Now, this one does that now, but when you first pull it out of the box, I did notice that if you're pushing on it and you're pulling it out towards you a little bit, it locks up. So either pulling it back and just directly pulling it back, or lifting it up and pushing it in slightly allows it to run nicely. And once you've got that figured out, guys, it runs really smooth for a budget bolt action rifle. I was actually incredibly surprised. Now, again, it did take a mag or two of running it and working it in to kind of get out the little kinks and get a feel for the action itself. But again, slight pressure inwards on the bolt while you're racking it in. You can run it quick, as you see in the intro, with no issues whatsoever. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than your traditional AR upper. Obviously, you're not going to get a forward assist or a dust cover because we are running this like a bolt action, but all the key components like the extractor and the ejector springs, things that you would need to place, are going to be standard AR bolts. It does have a little spring tension between the carrier and the bolt itself. When you close it, you can see it's got that little spring bounce back before you lock it into place. And if you accidentally bump it a couple of times, it's not going to like open up. So if you are climbing up a deer stand, it locks in there fairly secure. A Remington 700 or a Savage may lock that bolt down a little bit more secure than this, but it does a decent enough job. The bolt handle is actually very smooth and refined, works out great, and you don't have to throw it very far, which makes it also run incredibly fast. So I like that. Now, you can actually run this with or without a buffer spring in the buffer system. For me, I liked the idea of having this sitting around for specific tasks on maybe a lower you already have, and it just drops right on, so no specialized lower required. Now, what you are looking at here is not attached to a lower, so you can see how smooth it goes back, and that would be the feel of a normal bolt action, but you are cocking the hammer on the lower. Now, I ran this with a standard mil-spec trigger on the pistol and it cocked it and it felt good. Can run it pretty quick. Ran this with a match grade trigger on the rifle, and we will switch over to that one and talk a little bit more about that right now. And the match grade trigger was just a touch easier to cock because the hammer spring was a little bit lighter. So I do want to show you guys this one. You can pop it up. You can see it wants to stick a little bit. You put some inward pressure and it cocks right back. But now I'm overcoming the hammer spring as well as the carbine spring in the buffer system. But put a little pressure and it rockets back. So no issues with that bolt, as long as you know that subtle little detail of sometimes some slight inward pressure. I've just developed the cue of always kind of putting a little bit of inward pressure when I'm running the gun, and it works out really nice. Now, when it comes to rail systems, there's a lot of different rail systems, but I am going to show you guys one of their newer rail systems. It's got kind of a cut down section in the center, M-lock slots everywhere you need them, pick rail up at the front, and then it locks up pretty solid. No QD slots. I always like to see QD slots, especially to attach slings, but with the wide variety of QD attachments that go into the M-lock rails, you can just add one your own. Not a big deal, but it would be nice to be included. And on the pistol one, this is one of their more older rail systems that they've used. Same type of deal, M-lock pick rail at the front, locks up pretty rock solid. Now, one thing to note, some of the uppers that I got from Bear Creek Arsenal a while back, we would have screws come loose here, gas block screws come loose. The torque specs were often, the QC was not that great. Now, since then, it's been pretty good, but I always caution you guys, I try to be as fair and honest and as transparent as possible. I've had some issues with torque specs, so check those. These ones seem to be fine. No issues there. And you don't have to worry about a gas system, so there's no worry that you have to have it tuned correctly or the hole size bored out right. These are a lot more forgiving when it comes to manufacturing, and they're a lot more forgiving when it comes to reliability because there is no gas system or buffer springs to wear out over time, so that is really nice. Now, let's talk a little bit about the accuracy of these and the reliability when it comes to feed and function. Then we'll switch to why you may want one and why you may not want one. The first is accuracy. Bear Creek for me has always been very, very accurate. And with the AAC ammo, out of both of these uppers, even the smaller 10.5-inch upper, they were incredibly accurate. I took them out to about 125 and they were little tack drivers. I mean, plinking over and over again. It's like cheat codes, no recoil. It's just fun to run these. And the AAC combined with the BCA uppers worked really well. Now let's talk about the feed and reliability. For me, as long as I was putting slight inward pressure on that bolt when I was opening and closing it, smooth as silk, fed from all of the magazines great. Now for me, I went with the standard Magpul PMags when running these guns. I did not branch out too far. I did run steel just a touch and everything was fine. No feed issues whatsoever. Again, on par with the reliability of what I've seen from some of those bolt action Ruger Americans that run the AR style mags. Same feed, same feel reliability wise. Again, I've had issues with other companies in the past, like the Mossberg MVP series. No matter what I did, it didn't run right. This one just ran, never got bound up, never had issues. So kudos to Bear Creek on that. The anodization and finish of everything seems pretty nice. And overall, those are the basic specs and features, reliability and accuracy reports. One thing to note on this guy, though, is again, I've seen some people on the reviews not have inward pressure to push on their bolt to chamber rounds. Both of mine do, so I don't know if there's a change in machining or just it is what it is now with Bear Creek. Now, why would you want something like this? And one of the very, very first reasons for me personally is it's quiet. A closed breech gun, meaning the action stays completely closed while the gases escape down the barrel, is very quiet to shoot around the shooter's ears because there's no port pop of the gases escaping back out. It also keeps the gas away from the shooter down the end of the rifle. And traditionally, closed breech guns are very easy to suppress. With the Subsonic 300 Blackout, this was movie quiet. I mean, absolutely movie quiet. The action was louder than the round going off. We were running one of the new Ruger dead air combination cans, and it was a very, very good fit with both of these guys, especially that little 10.5 inch or 8.5 inch barrel system. You can get some pretty slick options, especially with subsonic ammo. It's really quiet. The other option would be maybe in your state you can't hunt with semi-autos. This is a bolt action, no problem there. So having that bolt action for hunting applications is really nice. And then when it comes to accuracy, I've always seen really good accuracy out of a lot of ARs now. I've also seen really good accuracy out of a lot of bolt guns. So accuracy is not a plus, but it's also not a negative. Very accurate. I don't think you lend much to that. Now, one though real positive is going to be bolt action style capacity. So you're only limited by what you can buy in the AR mag world. So that is really convenient for something like this. So it's very quiet. It's very reliable. It functions good. It's not very ammo picky as well because you don't have to worry about a gas system on the end. Overall, it's pretty cool. And also it's cheap. Very, very affordable. Again, a lot of these options sub 225 and even a lot of these options sub 200. So again, more information on the campsite about that. In a nutshell, if you were interested in a bolt action AR, but you wanted to wade the waters and you didn't want to drop a ton of money on some weird custom project, this is a good option, especially at the price point. They seem to run well, again, with that caveat of a little inward pressure on the bolt. And overall, they seem to be pretty decent with the two samples that they've sent me when it comes to build quality. The only thing I caution you about Bear Creek is QC has been an issue in the past, so I continue to look at QC and performance when it comes to there. Let me know your positive and negative experiences in the description below so people can develop a full opinion. I'm just one man with two uppers that BCA sent, but these ones are pretty cool. I love the concept, love the price. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.